Welcome to tonight's meeting. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Davis.
Here.
Vice Chair Milliken.
Here.
Treasurer DeVarty.
Already here.
Secretary Hatcher.
Here.
Trustee Fleming.
Here.
Trustee McKnight-Morton.
Here.
Trustee Milshine.
Here.
Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Support. Thank you. Tab A, recommendations.
Couldn't we vote on that, right?
Yes, we should. Thank you.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tab A, the recommendations that the Board of Trustees of the September 24 monthly minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve minutes?
So move.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to verbal communication.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we've just passed the halfway mark of the semester, which seems crazy that we're already here. But students are hard at work with midterm exams and projects. The faculty in the liberal arts just finished a successful liberal arts week. The LA Innovate Committee, made up of Dina Blair, Bonnie Chu, Jill Jepson, Hava Levitt Phillips, and Gabby Browning, hosted several sessions each day focused on the importance of the liberal arts. We were joined in sessions by many professionals, including the mayor of Ypsilanti, Nicole Brown, and Stephanie Mansour, who is the fitness editor for the Today Show, both of whom are former students from WCC, so we were very happy they came back to help us. We want to extend our congratulations to our colleagues and presenters that made that week such a success. There's been a concern that has arisen regarding the possible discontinuation of the Google Suite access for faculty, employees, and students. At this point, we have not been given a clear picture of if and when this continuation will happen. We have entire departments that rely solely on Google Docs for all of their assessment data, as well as their course materials. Students will also be affected by this change, as they will lose any coursework that they have completed and will limit the access WCC students have for completing assignments using the Google Suite. We hope the administration will be transparent on why this discontinuation is being considered, as well as providing data that proves the need to change our current software access. Faculty and students need to be heard on this issue and need not only a timeline, but a clear plan on how this transition will happen. So far, no real data nor any formal discussions with faculty have taken place. Our developmental faculty are continuing to work on a plan to reimagine our developmental education program. To be clear, our faculty are completing this task not because we believe this is the best for our students, but because the college has directed us to do so. We do not believe the current plan set to begin in winter 2025 will meet the needs of our developmental education students and our community. Our developmental education students are one of the most vulnerable populations, and faculty are very concerned on how the college plans to support these students while simultaneously eliminating the courses needed to get these students up to grade level and prepare them for college level classes. We are a community college, and this plan is not serving our community as a whole. We look forward to continuing conversations around the Google Suite and developmental education. Our hope is the administration will listen to the content experts, the faculty, when making sweeping changes to the college and its courses and services. We need better communication and more transparent data to understand these choices that affect so many in our campus community. Thank you.
Anything? Moving on to public comments. I have one here from Mr. Jeremy Haley. Is he available? Good evening, Mr. Haley.
Thank you.
I will have to restrict you to 3 minutes.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, just to let you know in advance, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank
Thank
you very much. You can go ahead.
All right. Thank you all for having me again. I'd like to come back at the next meeting and talk to. I was just at a recent U of M Regents meeting, and I'd like to talk about what one of the U of M Regents spoke about. That if she actually spoke how it affects U of M campus, and not just that, it affects all of society pretty much. What I'd like to know is who can I contact to get the revenue expenditure number going back at least 30 to 40 years.
Or CFO.
All right. Thank you. I'll get with him afterwards.
But
And-
actually, it probably was better if you call the chief of staff, and then she will.
set it up.
Yes, please.
Gotcha.
We'll get you that information. We have your.
So I'll make
we have
contact with her
information,
afterwards.
right? Okay.
All right. Thank you. And my question is the EV chargers. Are they going to be metered and paid for by the people using them, or is the college setting them up so anybody can just plug in for free?
By the people using them. May I speak?
Yes, you may. Go
Okay.
right ahead, Dr. Blanca. That's okay.
We usually don't do this, but since you're asking questions and I know the answer,
I mean, I just like to know because, as a taxpayer and a homeowner and property taxes, I don't want to see things going up on people's free use of things that they should be paying for. And that's my concern, is make sure that they're metered properly. And because I know for 7.1 kilowatts I used last month, I paid $51 for. And some of these cars have 11,000 kilowatt batteries, and when they charge them up, they're using about 7,000 kilowatts if they partially charge them. So they should be charging about $50 each time. I'm just letting you know, it's just, I was talking to more people who have EVs, and I know you guys are doing it, and I just like to see you guys do it correctly and not try to put it on the people of the community for what people want to drive around in. And that's all. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haley. Appreciate you coming forward. Vanessa, were there any written communications received?
or to receive.
Okay, thank you. Special reports on recognition of Kristen Rue, EVPI Tucker.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Kirsten Rue, who is our director of the Center for Career Success, who recently was at the White House last week and was honored as one of, I believe, 50 apprenticeship ambassadors across our country. The board might remember over the last couple of years, we've tried to grow the number of apprenticeships that we have in community with our industry partners. And Kirsten's leadership over the last 2.5 years has been key to that success and caught the attention of our federal government. So, President Malaka, and I invite Kirsten up.
Yes, Kirsten, would you like to join me also?
Sure.
Congratulations. We're so proud of you. Really appreciate it. Recognition of your work.
Microphone.
Oh,
Sir.
Thank you.
in recognition of your work as an apprenticeship ambassador for the United States Department of Labor. This award is granted to you from Washtenaw Community College.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
You want to say anything?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I just am so grateful for the opportunity. I've been extremely supported here at Washtenaw Community College since I came here in 2021. Community college is my home, and I haven't been so connected to a body of work as registered apprenticeship because the experiential learning components of these programs truly make for our academic programs to be stronger and for our students and our industry to have better connections to the work that we're doing here at the college. So I appreciate the recognition and nice to see you all.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank
We're
you.
going to take a quick photo.
Sure.
What,
Great.
How about if we take it here and then you could get everyone? Let me get Stacy.
Favorite thing.
Like us standing behind you, or what do you envision?
You want to stand behind me?
We're always behind you, Rose.
I will do it.
Just have pictures.
On the record.
Yeah. Let me get a quick one of the previous. And then,
Right.
Randy, you want to see inside the table or behind?
inside would be nice.
Good.
Okay, you want to go back inside? They're going to come inside. Oh,
Come in.
if that's okay. Probably right there because I'll need that. Okay. You can see all the faces. One, two, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to annual grants update, EVPI Tucker.
Good to see you again. Tonight, it's my pleasure to provide the board our recap of our annual grants activity. Most specifically, we'll kind of talk about the overview of all of our grants, highlight some of our new and existing grants, really talk about the impact of those grants, and then kind of give you a preview of some things that are on the horizon. This year was another banner year in terms of award. As you will remember, over the last couple of years, we've seen significant growth in large dollar federal government supported and local foundation supported grants. So over the last fiscal year, 11.5 million approximately. Last year was around 13 million, almost 14. But the more important thing beyond the dollars is the impact. So our grants impacted over 2,000 students, supported 83 positions. I know the board is always interested in that number. About half of those are either fully supported full-time positions. The remainder are a portion of full-time and or part-time positions. Reached over 3,400 community members and potential students through some of the grants outreach. As I mentioned, $11.5 million approximately in total awards. And then what's important to note is that we have annual renewable grants that account for about $2 million of that total award. So a large number of that was in new awards. So we'll talk about that in a moment. As we think about new grants in fiscal year 24, which would have been July 1 of 23 through June 30 of 24, just over 7.7 million. Some examples of those grants are our MSTAR partnership around semiconductors, our ADN to BSN, which was at 2 million, but we got a notice actually this morning that will be increasing by just over 160,000. So that'll be 2.1 million in total. 1.8 million in our Reconnect age expansion. You might remember the Reconnect program that supports students. That expansion allowed for 21 through 24-year-olds, not just 25 and up. Our small business EC startup incubator, we've seen significant investment from Spark as well as the state of Michigan, MEDC, around supporting small business growth. Semiconductors in higher ed, that was a small grant award, but one that you'll hear about in a moment that impacted literally hundreds of students. And then it's supporting our economic, our EC, our startup incubator, Old National Bank. You might remember gave $50,000 to get that jump started. So in total, 7.7 million in new awards over the last fiscal year. We have a lot of ongoing active grants here are listed, all of our grants that move across the institution in many different ways. We think about academic catch-up, which provides support to our most neediest students, closing the skills gap, which supports our workforce development efforts. Of course, our Michigan Power Project, which is supporting the expansion of our EV, BEV, and semiconductor programs. But the ones that you see before you with the asterisk behind them are annually renewable grants, such as the Barfield family. They have an investment fund that supports Park Ridge each and every year with the summer camp and other activities, as well as our Perkins allocation and a small business development center state funding, to name a few. But we have a lot of active grants, as you see, going on. Some of those are renewable, but a large portion are new awards that happened over the last fiscal year. So it's one thing to talk about the money, but let's talk about and kind of highlight the impact of what those dollars have done. One of those, which is through MEDC, was a very, very small grant to provide outreach. So as we move into semiconductors, one thing that we wanted to do was be intentional with how we built the interest of middle school and high school students. And MEDC took a special interest to that. So we actually hosted 14 teachers from Ypsilanti Community Schools, and in partnership with the Semi Foundation, provided them a significant amount of time of training so that they could understand what are semiconductors and how are they applicable in my classroom, right? So what that allowed us to do was train those teachers that then got semiconductor kind of training kits that they were able to bring back to their classrooms. And as of the writing of this report, 1,855 of those kits have been ordered and are in classrooms. So that translates into over 1,800 middle school, high school students are able to see what we're doing here at the college in terms of training, but then also a career field that many of them probably never heard about. When we think about our Alpha Scholars program, this is one that's been highlighted in years past. But what's important to know is our fall 2023 cohort, which, if we remember FIDIAC, first time in college, degree-seeking individuals. It's about 700 roughly of those individuals. Our cohort basically took a third of them and really focused on intentional, targeted support, whether it's academic advising, success coaching, but then also community building activities and workshops to ensure that not only do we touch the 156, but that those 600 and almost 700 FIDIACs could access those same level of benefits in terms of services. But what's important is that 97% of those in the fall 2023 cohort returned in the winter 2024 semester. That's compared to a little over 70% or around in terms of retention. And then 80% enrolled in the fall 2024. So while it's a small cohort, it's a third of the FIDIACs, the services that we are teeing up for them are services that the institution ultimately can scale up and benefit all students. But this was, once again, outside funding that could provide additional supports. Trustee Hatcher has a question.
My apologies. Trustee Hatcher.
I'm just, they weren't all white, were they? As in the picture?
I do not know the demographic information, but I would almost tell you that they were not all white, that there was diversity.
What the demographic is of that grant.
We could probably do that. Yep.
Anyone else? Trustee Milshine?
What happened to the 20% that did not come back for the following year? Is it because, do we follow them? Do we know why they didn't return?
We do. I can't speak to that in detail. I can get you that information. But we do have additional outreach that happens to try to find out, was there a reason? Was there something that could be prevented? And just because they may not have came back that one semester, they could have returned, and they may be in the next year. But we know there's about 20% that didn't.
Be interesting to see what happened. So if I can get that information, just to see what can we do to potentially make sure that future students are successful.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
HBCU Day, another supported project that I know Dean Reed has reported to the board about in previous meetings. Fully supported by Washtenaw County. Nearly 400 were attended from over 9 high schools. And as you'll notice, those were Ypsilanti high schools, Ann Arbor high schools, and then also Bellevue and Plymouth. But what we find very interesting is not only was the amount of students, potential students that came to campus for that day, but that we had over 70 volunteers from our campus and local community. And this is something that is growing into a staple event across our community. And we're going to be looking to the county to support that in years to come.
Trustee McKnight-Morton?
Don't have any affiliation let me reverse that question. Is there still any affiliation from Whitmore Lake to our school?
Yes, there is.
But not the high schools?
Provost Blakey? Whitmore Lake and their high school, is there an affiliation or partnership?
Yes. I can't stand up.
Yes. We have an affiliation, and we have students from Whitmore Lake who do enroll with us.
Okay. That sounds great. So were they invited?
Yes. So we send it out across our community. And while those 9 high schools were the ones that were highlighted, it could have been individuals that went to Whitmore Lake. Those are just 9 in which we had a partnership in terms of busing and provided support to get them here.
I understand. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
President Belanca, you had a question?
We also, Michelle, Vice President Marusi, could just 30 seconds about the partnership with Whitmore Lake.
With Whitmore Lake,
Hold on.
With Whitmore Lake High School right now, through the CCAT grant fund, we're funding 30 to 60.
What is CCAT?
Oh, the Center for Advanced Transportation that we partner with the University of Michigan on. We are paying for 30 to 60 students to go through our data analytics training. It is not dual enrollment, but what it is it's an opportunity for the teacher that teaches business statistics to provide relevancy in the classroom through our online self-paced training in data analytics.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just going to ask this question. Excuse me. Senator, right ahead, Madam Chair. Do you know what the enrollment is like?
For
the classes that you know as being.
Yeah, those are two classes. They're two computer statistics classes where we partnered with the teacher, and as I said, this is kind of a pilot project in terms of trying to provide relevant hands-on experience so a student can walk away with certification from an industry as it relates to business statistics. So it's not just that straight statistics class, it's showing the students now how to get the data out of the cloud, clean it, display it, analyze it.
Thank you. You answered my other question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Trustee Hatcher?
Could you go back to your second screen? That was the 7 million at the bottom. Yeah, there you go. That if you add up the numbers, it's more than 7 million.
That is correct. That is an error.
Okay.
That I apologize for. It actually should be 9, a little over 9.7.
Yeah.
That is out of the 11.5 million that we got. So
I teach English, and if I notice, go ahead. Thanks.
You're taking Dave's job. Go right ahead.
So let's talk about what's on the horizon. And oftentimes we want to just give you a preview. We always want to let the board know that while we have seen a significant increase over the last couple of years, just that we have to manage our expectations because there have been significant investments through state and local fiscal recovery funds. So the American Recovery Act has provided a lot of funding over the last couple of years that have expanded not just programs from a financial aspect to bring new programs, but also additional programs that like Reconnect and other things that are time and term limited. However, we know that there is a growing request for the college to be involved in state programs that have innovative curriculum, like our semiconductor and our EV battery, inclusion, of course, in research grants at University of Michigan, Michigan State, CCAT, which is an example of that, but then also the CHIPS and Science Act funding, knowing that has continued to be invested locally in our community, and we'll kind of talk about in a moment how we're seeing that play out. We are continuing to work with local employers, education and community partners on new programs that have an external investment, but that, our semiconductor transfer program. So creating that pathway for certificates and associate degrees. The EV battery manufacturing technician advanced certificate, which we brought to the board earlier this year. And then grades 8 through 12 engagement, as I mentioned, to ensure that we build the pipeline of interest in what are new and emerging trends and technologies that oftentimes they don't know about. One thing that we want to note are letters of support related to grants. So oftentimes we will either be a direct recipient of the grants modeled by the 9.7 million in new grants this year, or we will be asked to provide a letter of support for other organizations like University of Michigan, for example, their neuroscience undergraduate research opportunities application to the NIH. That provided an opportunity for students to get internships in the summer that are paid. So oftentimes we are seeing as a resource in community where they're saying, hey, can we partner with WCC to help build the pipeline to University of Michigan or other four-year schools such as, Eastern as well. But then from an apprenticeship perspective, some of you probably have seen this in the news. The Cabot Corporation, they just received $50 million to provide a new plant here in the southeastern Michigan area, right outside of the county. It's going to be the first production facility. But what does that mean for us is that they're going to be looking to get our graduates from those battery technician programs that we just launched as soon as they hit the ground in 2026 and 2027. So some of those letters of support result in direct funding to the institution, but then some of them also create pathways for our students. So the last year has been a banner year in terms of support externally, but it could not be done without the support of our team. So Julia Shattuck, who is our Director of Grants Development and Management, Karen Parker, and Lynn Grace, and the team in finance. It is truly a group effort, and definitely want to shout them out and thank them for their work to make sure that we stay in compliance, but that also that we keep our eye on the target for new opportunities. So with that, any questions the board may have?
Trustee Milliken?
I wondered if we were at the Cabot ceremony when they announced this introduction, or if we have any dialogue with Cabot yet to kind of pave the way for this that you're talking about.
We were not at the ribbon cutting because it was pretty much a closed, high-level press of it. But we did receive communication that same day, thanking us for not only a letter of support, but also looking at how we can set up meetings to operationalize what was an aspirational letter of support that it's now funding. So our team is in discussion with them to see how do we start ensuring their pipeline is ready when their facility opens.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Trustee Milshine?
Two items. The first one, Dr. Tucker, you've done a great job of setting up the expectations for next year with regards to grant funds. So I guess my first question is, it looks like grant funding has dropped this year for us based on the chart. I think I was on the second slide. And is that due to what you're preparing us for, that grant funding is coming down?
President Belanca will answer.
You want to answer it?
Madam President.
Well, actually, grant funding is aligned with where we're going as a college. So we don't apply for every grant. We only apply for grants that align with the strategic plan, where we're going, or something that we would do anyway. And we need that support to get us past it. We may, for example, now one area that we did not talk about, which we probably will at some point, but there's a reason it's not on here yet because we didn't talk about it before this, is the area of AI. That's an area that is a strategic area. And in that area, we met today, and we are probably going to look for grant funding to support the area of AI. We don't know what's out there yet, but we're going to research it and see. But that's an area the faculty want to go. That's the area the college wants to go. So every grant, the dollars don't exactly indicate anything but where we're going. Does that make sense?
So my question goes to, as Dr. Tucker set our expectations, at least maybe I heard incorrectly, but we're expecting grant funding to come down in the coming years because of COVID funding that was maybe large. Is that what I'm hearing?
So we're expecting over the next couple of years that while that funding will be sunsetted, and I'll go back to the slide real quick, we also know that there's other opportunities for funding that we are already going to pursue or that we see down the road. So while there won't be necessarily RF funds after fiscal year 26, we do see that those will be replaced, to President Malaka's point, in alignment with strategic goals that we have. And we do suspect that fiscal year 26 funding will probably round between 5 and 8 million for next year. So we've already started to kind of project out what potentially is there. And we actually already have at least a few $1 million in grant awards that will be announced here shortly from the state of Michigan.
Okay. Thank you. One other question, and that is, I believe I asked this last year, but a follow-up to that. In the past 12 months, have we sent any grant funding back because we were not able to utilize the funds? And if so, do you have a rough number of what that looks like and maybe possible reasons for why we sent it back?
Yeah. So we do sometimes send grant money back, and it's not just because we couldn't use it. It oftentimes is timing. So an example of that would be that with all of the Reconnect and these state programs that I know President Malak has briefed the board about, the state sometimes will send us a notice and say, hey, in February, we've got this extra money, and we're adding it to your award, and it's $250,000. And oh, by the way, we need you to spend it by June 30. In some cases, yes, we can get that money out the door, but in other cases, we can't. So that number was around $250,000, and it was an add-on, but we fulfilled all of our grant requirements with the initial award, which is like $1.8 million. But the extra money, we just couldn't get out the door in the time that they wanted us to. So generally, it is a timing thing, not necessarily from a performance perspective.
So the 250 is the number, or is it? Are there other grants?
250 is the number.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. And I want to important to note that it was 250 that they gave us extra that we couldn't get out the door. So we got out everything that we originally were awarded.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Trustee Hatcher.
I'd also like to thank the people not only who apply for these grants, but who support the grants at the end and say that we did our job. That's a lot of paperwork as well.
It is.
Do that. As with respect to these, like the semiconductor program and others, do we expect to have students with the math capabilities for those programs? I mean, how are we going to do that? We don't have it now, so.
Yeah, so specific to semiconductors, that is going to go two pathways. One will be our kind of our pre-engineering pathway. So those that go to the semiconductor kind of transfer would be students that are already probably in our pre-engineering transfer track or a STEM track to U of M. There is a semiconductor kind of certificate pathway. Those people will sit more on the advanced manufacturing or CTE side. And we will, as we mentioned before, the math for the trades, that has been very helpful. And those individuals will go kind of that pathway.
Okay, good luck.
Yep. And when I say math for the trades, because Trustee Etcher, I know that you know that course well. It is not math for the trades in its old sense where it was a separate course. It could be a course that is contextualized in partnership with the math department and our advanced manufacturing faculty to make, let me give an example, Math 125 contextualized for the trades. So I didn't want you to think that there's a new math course because there's generally existing courses.
Trustee McKnight Morton.
I just want to ask this question then. If the students that is going to need to go into these fields will need to have these advanced math classes, but what about other people who are not going into the technical areas like engineering and AI stuff? What about other people who their math skills aren't up to par? So shouldn't we still have, I'm not saying but the previous speaker, I can't think of her name, the union person, when she mentioned that the class is being eliminated, maybe not all. See, I don't know the whole story. So I'm just trying to figure this out. Wouldn't students still need to have that training?
Absolutely. So, there's kind of two tracks to math, right? One track would be that you're on a transfer track, meaning that you need to be taking courses that will allow for you to be able to transfer to a four-year school. And then there is more of the technical track, which is going to be your more hands-on and contextualized. I will say that both of the areas in partnership with our math faculty, we're ensuring that we have those additional supports, whether it's tutoring, both embedded in the class and outside the class, whether it's supplemental instruction, which supports the academic, kind of content. We're ensuring that those students today, and even more so as we move into our winter semester, have the tools in their toolbox to be successful. So they will still be supported whatever track they desire to go on, whether it's the STEM and transfer track or more the technical side.
And this would be already identified prior to them actually going into these programs.
Absolutely.
They've been already identified, because I'm going to tell you straight out, this first time I'm saying this to anybody other than my family, I am not good at math. And I'm going to tell you, I would have needed, I took math, but I just made it in there, but not like the way it is today. And I couldn't even help my kids because it's so different now. So thank you.
No, thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Trustee Hatcher.
All right, just to be
That's
clear, as I understand it, there aren't classes for people who need remediation in math in order to go forward. There's extra help, there's tutoring, there's contextualization of the class, but there are no classes that will prepare those students as a unique class. Is that correct?
As a unique class, no.
There will not be any.
Yep. But as additional supports, yes. And both in class and outside of class.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you very much. It was very good. Thank you. Thank you. Next is WTMC annual update. Dean Covert.
Good evening. It's great to be back. This is one of the things that I really like to do. I get to celebrate this 27-year experiment that was started at WCC. And you may not know this, but we've grown into the most successful middle college in the U.S., and that's based on student outcome. So the amount of students that finish associate degrees, the percentage of students that complete college courses, the amount of credits that each student completes by the time they graduate. And we're also physically with students the largest also in the U.S. And that's only come through an incredible collaboration with WCC. So this is my opportunity to celebrate both WTMC and WCC and the work that we've done together. So there's a couple things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the impact to our community as a whole. I want to talk about the significance to WCC, and then some of the changes that have gone on at WTMC over the last year to address some concerns and things we've seen. So this is a graph that shows our growth. We're entering our 28th year, and you can see since 1997 the growth of the school. This one's really important to me. It's the amount of credits that students at WTMC have completed. And so when you think about the community that WTMC in partnership with WCC has paid for tuition, books, student fees for over 216,000 credits. And that's economic power that's going back into our community. Students aren't having to spend that money on education. They're able to spend it in our community. And so I think that's an incredible force of the work that we've done here. All right. I just want to remind everyone of our mission because it's hugely important when we think about it. And the most important line to me is we are not a traditional high school, because a traditional high school's goal is to get students to graduate from high school and to be college ready. Our students must be college successful. So they must complete either an associate degree or a certificate. About 30% of our students finish multiple degrees. So an associate degree and a certificate, multiple associate degrees. And so the work that we do is very different, and it's unique to that. it's also important to realize who our students are. So it is open to any student. Anyone can apply to WTMC. We have no preference. We only give preference to if your sibling goes, you can get in right away, so we don't have transportation issues. And we give preference to residents of Washtenaw County, which make up about 92% of our students. Additional applications are placed in a lottery. I'm really proud to say that we had both a lottery for our 9th grade and our first year students. So we had more than 70 students who wanted to come to WTMC who weren't able to get in at both levels. We are one of the only high schools in Washtenaw County that not only has maintained its enrollment, but has slightly grown. And that's the power of the place and the work that's being done. So demographically, I think this is really important as we think about getting students ready. About 10% of our entering students come in at level 1 in reading, so they really are reading at the 3rd or 4th grade level. And we have to, in the next 4 years, get them to not only get that reading level up to a level 6 on the AccuPlacer, but we also have to get them then to pass college courses. We've seen a doubling in the amount of students since COVID who are not prepared to do Algebra 1 when they come to us. So it used to be about 34% of our students needed pre-algebra or a numeracy course. Now 75% of the students who started this fall needed either a numeracy or a pre-algebra course. 9% of our students are special ed. 52% are first-generation college students. This is really important to me. This is the essential work of a middle college. What the data has shown in America over the last 25 years is if you are a first-generation college student, you only have about a 32% chance of finishing college. But even worse, if you're a first-generation college student who is free and reduced or lives in poverty, you only have a 7% chance. And that's part of the work that we do. So about 18% of our students fall under that first generation free and reduced. And I'm really proud to say that 98% of those kids are finishing our program and graduating with a degree. You can see we also don't get to work with where our kids are coming from. They come from extremely different backgrounds. In Michigan, because of charter schools, because of private schools, home schools, we don't get a lot of say who arrives at our doorstep, and our job is to get them all to the same place to successfully finish those college degrees. I want to also talk about the significance to WCC. We get for our students $9,600 for each of our students. That's a state aid funding last year. That's for last year. So you can see what we pay for tuition, our chartering. So we pay 3% of our state aid goes to WCC, $175 for licensing and support services, other services, and we also pay for a lab aid through the science department. We admit kids in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade, and one of the things that's really important to us is that the AccuPlacer is only one measure, and the ALEX. We look at it as a 3-legged stool. And if a student doesn't have all 3 of those legs really strong, they're not going to be successful at college. So we're going to make sure that they have good content knowledge. You have to get an 85% or above in your 4 content areas. You have to have a level 6 on the AccuPlacer, and we say a level 3 or 4 on the ALEX before you go into college math class. But one of the things that is really important to us is soft skills. And I tell parents every fall, the best predictor of how your student's going to do in college is their soft skills. So we have a curriculum that was developed at WTMC. It's embedded in the courses. They get 20 minutes of soft skill instruction in all 4 of their content areas. So an hour to an hour and 20 minutes of soft skills instruction for 6 weeks. After that time, they are then given feedback on these 6 characteristics: attendance, follow through, preparation, communication, responsibility, and resilience. Resilience was added about 5 years ago through some work we did with the University of Michigan to make sure that our kids could accept grades and could accept not always being successful, but were resilient and could come back from that. So students don't transition to WCC courses unless all WTMC teachers say that the student has excellent soft skills. We also worked with Ypsilanti to develop the Summer Bridge program, and that's something that we actually now send our students to in the summertime also. It's taught by one WCC instructor and two WTMC instructors in the summertime. Okay. Some other significant things, we're 2.7% of the credit students, but that equates to 5% of the enrollment. And this is the thing that always amazes me when I look at the data. And I want to really thank Kathy Curry and her team, because she's the one who her team gets all this data to me. So it's great. But we're 11.4% of all the associate degrees last year that were conferred by WCC, and we're 8% of all the certificates. So that 3% turns into almost 12% of the associate degrees. And in specific areas, we have a lot of our students. So in general math and science, we were 61% of the associate degrees. And so think about that 75% of our students came in needing pre-algebra, needing numeracy. And these are kids that all went through minimally Calc 1. A lot of them finished Calc 3 or differential equations. So we're able to move those kids through and get them in those STEM fields. And that's a celebration to my math staff. They're an amazing group. When I started 15 years ago, only 1% of the courses taken at WCC were math classes. Last year, 19.7% of the courses taken at WCC were math classes. It's actually the highest percentage of classes our students take. Some where the awards are by division. And so again, you can see math, science, and engineering is where a third of all the awards at WCC. Some of the specific areas and classes that our students are in, you'll see a lot of those math classes, about 1 in 5, anywhere to 1 in 4 students are WTMC students. We also have a lot of students taking foreign language here, so that's a pretty important part of our curriculum. So WTM students have a 93% success rate in their WCC classes, so getting a C or above, and that is in comparison to the students overall. This is what I'm really proud of. 86% of our graduates over the last 5 years have earned an associate degree. And that's a pretty incredible thing for the students and the faculty that work with them, both at WTMC and WCC. 28% last year earned multiple degrees and certificates, and on average, 67 transferable credits. And we've made some changes. We're always looking at data and thinking about how we can do this work better. One of the most important things we needed to address was our students' footprint on campus, and we worked really closely with the college and President Belanca to create some more space. So we opened up the community room. We put some carpeting in there. We got some soft furniture, and it's become a really nice space for both WTMC students. And I go in there almost every day, and there's a lot of adult students. There's a lot of just people now not only eating in there, but studying throughout the day. And so that's been a really good thing. We hired 2 security patrollers to support our students. One of our goals is to really have our students look and act like college students on campus. And it's important for us to have people out there looking for that and watching for them. One of the things I always remind people, though, is we're a much smaller percentage of dual enrolled students than we were 15 years ago. When I started, we were 350 students and we were 80% of dual enrolled students. Now we're 800 and we're actually this year 29%. Last year we were 32%. So dual enrollment is a thing that is really impactful to this campus. So we have some people out there supporting our kids. We created a new student success coach mirroring what the college does. And this is specifically for students who went out to college, struggled in their first semester, and needed an extra point of contact. So this person works with those students, works with the college instructors so that students become successful and grow from that initial experience. One of the things that we're seeing is a huge influx in mental health issues for our students. When I first started, we had one mental health professional for 375 students. We now have 6 mental health providers for 800 students. We have 3 social workers and 3 counselors, and they're busy all day long. We also have a person that's working on chronic absenteeism. It's been a nationwide problem, and we've been able to reduce that by 80%. So we have just a handful of kids now that are considered by state chronically absent, and that means they're missing more than 10% of the school year. There are schools in our county where 50% of their students would be chronically absent. And we also hired a full-time math teacher to tutor our students who are behind in math. So they work all day long and then run tutoring from 3 to 4:30 every day for our students who are struggling in math so that they can get some extra help and support. It's been a great experiment, and I can't tell you how successful and WTMC and the staff there want to thank you and thank WCC for all the support you've given us. It's only through the partnership that we can do this.
Trustee Milliken?
Do you have any shining lights that you can describe, students that have gone on to achieve great things that have brought them recognition?
There's one. Yeah.
There's one.
Well, besides Alec.
Yeah. Yeah, we have students who are doing amazing things. A lot of students who have become doctors, who are lawyers. We have a student who works for the State Department and is actually working in the Middle East. A couple of the students who have been in the Washtenaw Voice because of the great things that they've done, and another publication are WTMC students. So it's pretty cool now, and they come back in. Every Thanksgiving, we do what is called pathway panels, and we have a group of students who come back and talk to our current students, talking about their careers, what they do, the things they learned at WTMC, and that's it's usually a pretty full house of students that want to come back.
Thank you.
Trustee Fleming?
Thank you. I would like to express my eternal gratitude to WTMC and their staff. My student is still in WTMC, and she is currently earning an A in Math 097. Thank you very much. A special shout out to Ms. Kaplan and Ms. Schultz who support her. Recently, they were able to change their support schedule from every week to every 2 weeks. And that, I think, is a sign of she's now able to have that backed off because she's doing so well. So please give them anything and everything you can. They deserve it. They are saints for helping my student. And she definitely fell into that post-pandemic category where she lost a lot of instruction. And I can see the changes you made in the last year definitely improved my student because she's making that A in math. We have other areas to improve on, but I am so eternally grateful and give them everything they need.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I do have a question for lottery. How does that work? Is it across all the grades or a certain amount of certain grade levels that the lottery is for? How does what is that process like?
So they can apply they can either apply to the 9th grade program or to the middle college program. And so we had more applicants than spaces for both. We actually put the numbers, it's a randomized number into it, and we pull it out, put it on a board. I will tell you, it is one of the worst days for me because we invite parents and families can come, and so we see families who are crying and happy for joy, and parents and students who are crying because they didn't get in. It's not a pleasant experience, I would say that.
So
but
how many are pulled then?
So
Process.
yeah, we take out. So for the ninth grade, we have 130 students we pull. So we pull those numbers, and then for the middle college, we look at usually about 75 to 90 students, and we just pull them. So if they're in county, they get in first, and usually for the middle college, we can get all our in-county students who apply in. And the lottery is usually out-of-county students. And then for the ninth grade, they're all in the lottery.
My next question is on the demographics. Through the lottery, and some students get in. And I was looking at your slides, even though you had it broken down by courses that they've taken and so on and so forth. I really didn't see any demographics on the actual breakdown of the racial demographics, and that for me is important. Yes, we're doing things for the Ypsilanti, but because our Black and brown students of color, there's a disproportionate rate in, them being represented successfully in school. So WCC as a college, we're actually working on that, and I'm sure you are too, but I don't see it represented in your update.
Yep. So our demographics mirrors the county almost exactly. We draw about 50% from Ann Arbor and 50% from Ypsilanti. I think our current Black and brown students is about 22%, so slightly over 1 in 5. I'm working really closely with Derek Jackson to improve our outreach into the communities through My Brother's Keeper and the work that they're doing. One of the limiting factors that we have is we are not invited to go into public schools to speak about the school. So a lot of it is word of mouth. We can't do that. So we want to get into communities. Another thing that we did, we're the only school in the county that did it. We offer a free monthly bus pass to any of our students. And so to encourage students who are having transportation issues to get to school, so we provide a free bus pass to anyone who needs one.
Well, I'm glad to hear you name drop the Brothers Keepers. I had the opportunity to attend their second annual gala on Sunday, this just past at Eastern, and it was very well put together. It's still a young organization, but it's very promising in what they're doing with the young Black males and females, but namely the young Black males. And so having that connection with them is definitely what is needed to get that information out to that population. And because of that, with Jamal, what's Jamal's last name? With Director Jamal Buford and what's the other name that left Parkridge? Anthony Williamson. Though he's not physically part of it in that sense, but he does have close ties with the organization. They will definitely pass the word out and encourage the young men and women to fall in line so that their educational career, hopefully through WCC, the technical middle college, ninth grade, whatever it may be, that'll be something that they'll keep their eyes on. The other thing you mentioned is the chronic absenteeism. And so is there any indication of why that is? I mean, yes, students skip. Truth be told, I used to skip. I know, right? But if it's chronic and that's an issue that you have been dealing with, what are those issues that are causing the students to not be there? Is it transportation? Is it health issues? Physical, mental? Is it housing? What is it?
I think it's all of the above. And so one of the things that we did was we put in an automatic communication system. So when a student hits 4, we reach out to the family with a letter. When the student hits 6, they have to come in and meet with one of our social work team to explore, is it housing? Is it transportation? Is it mental health issues like anxiety? We have just a huge uptick in what is identified as anxiety, and helping students to overcome that, giving them the resources. So I think one of the things that we're really trying to do is individualize what is going on in that student's life that's impacting. And so we oftentimes find in that that there's food insecurities, there's housing insecurities, there's transportation insecurities, but we needed a system that identified it so that we could wrap around support and services. And we've been able to greatly decrease the amount of kids who are chronically absent. And one of the things that I know is just showing up is the best predictor of how a student's going to do academically. If we're able to get them through the door, we can do amazing things with them.
So I have a question, which I don't believe this is practiced, but say I'm your student, whatever grade level I'm in, but I'm your student, and I'm experiencing student crisis, whatever my young teenage mind would be experiencing. But I have housing accommodation. I'm food secured. I have transportation. I'm physically healthy. But I just need to talk, and I have no one else to talk to. Is there someone there? There meaning a professor. Is there a counselor in which that student can contact, say after work hours, which is school time, 6 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night? Is there somebody there for that student, that they feel comfortable and safe without feeling neglected in terms of the adult's tone of voice, that they can't talk to them?
So one of the unique things about WTMC is every one of our students has a base advisor. And so each of my instructional staff is responsible for 32 to 35 students, and they get about 8 to 9 students every year. And then they're going to work with them. So they're going to meet them the spring before they start at WTMC, them and their family. They're going to work with them, and they meet with them weekly, every other week, every week during their first year. And then they're going to be the one who reads their name at graduation, talks about their successes. So every student at WTMC has a significant adult in a 1 to 32 or 33 relationship. Then we also have our teacher consultants for any of our special education students, so they might have 2 support systems. And then we also have our counseling and social work staff for those who need extra help and support. So one of the things I frequently talk about when I talk about WTMC is the significance of the adult relationships that my faculty have with kids. It's an incredible thing. And it's time consuming. It is exhausting for my teaching staff, but it is really meaningful to the work that we do.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else?
Well, I'd like to compliment you and your staff on providing an outstanding experience for our students. And I'd also like to thank Linda Blakey, who is probably your number one advocate on this campus.
Absolutely.
To ensure that we have a great relationship, and the faculty, your faculty as well as our faculty, that work collaboratively to teach our students.
Absolutely.
So they are our students, and it's great partnering with you. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Trustee McKnight Morton.
I really this job that you and your staff is doing is so difficult, and I've recognized this since it started, and I just want to say thank you. Your reports are always outstanding. If there's anything else you wanted to say that you didn't say, I think now's the time because you've got captive audience over here. But your report is really good, and it shows to us more in depth than I've heard before. The percentages, you mentioned it, but you didn't go into depth, and now you've gone into depth of it. And I really appreciate that. I'm just sitting here in awe of all the hard work, and especially now that the chairs flashed out some more information about the safety of the students and their mental health. That is really a serious topic that needs to be constantly discussed. Thank you so much.
I appreciate and the collaboration between President Blanca, Linda Blakey, the staff at WCC has been amazing. That none of this work could be done without that relationship, and it allows us to create something amazing for our kids in this county. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It was very good. Thank you. So we'll move on to tab B. It is the personal recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the personnel recommendations as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
Support.
Any discussion? Trustee McKnight Morton?
Yes, I wanted to give a shout out to Cindy Holtz. Being here 24 years, I just always felt that she, along with the rest of that staff, foundation staff, has done an excellent job. Just in that department, and whenever we have our get-togethers, it's really nice that they really consider us trustees in that on both boards, and I like that because I remember when, excuse me, I hate to keep going back. I remember, but that's the truth. When I came on, we had a foundation, but nobody knew who the board was, so it was almost like there was no foundation on our end of it because it was separate. We didn't know who was there until I was kind of persistent and like, I want to know who these people are. And we had a first Christmas party, and I remember what that was. And that's how I got to know. The rest of us got to know who the foundation board was. So I just applaud them very much. Thank you very much.
Milliken?
I want to compliment Cindy Houts too from the foundation vantage point that I had when I sat on the foundation board. She was always conscientious and supportive, and it was good to know she was in the room.
Well, thank you. Anyone? Trustee Hatcher?
It's time for new org charts. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to financial reports, tab C, for September 2024. Before we proceed, VP Barnes, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, good evening. Let me just get to the... There we go. Okay. So we've just completed the first quarter, the first 3 months of fiscal year 25. So this will be the first time that most of the board has seen the financial results so far this year. So I'll start out talking about the fall tuition. Fall tuition is up. You can see there in the far column on the right, $592,000 so far through September. We had budgeted conservatively, expecting the enrollment to go down by 2%. It's actually up as of the end of September by 4.7%. And credit hours are up by 3.7%. So that in turn has resulted in favorable results for the fall semester. I will highlight there the negative number that you see there for the spring tuition. That we'll make up for that when we get to the spring summer fiscal year 25 results. Basically, just as a reminder for the board, the spring summer semester is split between 2 fiscal years. Part of the semester falls in fiscal year 24, part of it falls in fiscal year 25. So we have to make that split based on the number of classes that fall in the respective fiscal year. So we misestimated the number of classes that would fall in fiscal year 25, but I'm certain that will be made up for. And student fees also, in line with the fall tuition, is up. So you can see there, total tuition and fees so far up about $700,000. Local property taxes, you'll see a big favorable number there, but that is simply timing. We've just received some of the payments earlier than expected. Some of the jurisdictions are starting to pay electronically, whereas in the past we would have received checks. And we're just getting things more quickly. State appropriations, you can see pretty much right in line. I am expecting a small upside for the year because we did get a little bit more in the final appropriation than we had expected. We had budgeted to be up by 2%, but the state appropriation was up by 3.5%. So we should be up by at least a couple $100,000 at the end of the year. Trade partnerships, pretty good going so far. With the UA partnership in particular, things are going favorable. Investment income also up. We've had interest rates higher. Even though the Fed lowered interest rates, they're still higher than we had estimated in the budget. And we've also invested more in our long-term investments than we had expected in our budget. In terms of other and auxiliary services and other, we've had some corporate training that's doing a bit better than we expected. And in auxiliary, conference services in particular has done very, very well. We had the IBEW this year, which in particular added significant revenue to the auxiliary activities. In terms of expenditures, you'll see here it's 1.9 million favorable so far. Some of that is, of course, timing. It's still very early in the year. Some of it is actual favorability. We do have some vacancy savings, although the vacancies are being filled slowly but surely. We are fewer vacancies than we had at this time last year. So we are making progress. I'll point out the negative variances just very quickly that you see there. You do see a small negative variance related to where it says MIS Computer Services. That's simply timing. We paid an invoice earlier in the year than we were expecting. For community services, that is actually related to the conference services favorable. So when we have favorable catering and so forth, that results in more expenses for the food. And so that's, I would say, a good unfavorable variance. It's still net variable profit. And finally, utilities, that's the only line I would say I'm semi-concerned about. It's negative so far. We're looking, our utilities, in particular electricity, has been a little higher than we were expecting. So it'll depend a bit on the weather and other things such as that throughout the year. But that's the only line that at this point in the year I'm concerned could remain somewhat negative throughout the year. Other than that, I think we're in very good shape.
Questions? I have a question. Dr. Blanca, if you can refresh my memory, wasn't there a time when we were talking about solar panels? Wasn't there something that come up about solar panels?
Yes, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Remember
Vice President John Ziti's here. Yes.
Yeah, is that something that maybe we could look at again?
We could revisit where we're at with that.
Yeah, I'm seeing that how the electricity, was going up and so on and so forth. But I wanted to plant a seed on that, put a pin in it.
Sure.
All right, great. Anything else? Okay.
And I'll move that the Board of Trustees receive and approve the financial reports for September 2024, General Fund, Capital Fund, Combined Schedule of Investments, all funds as submitted.
Okay, all in favor? Support. Thank you. Thank you. Oh,
Got it?
okay. Facilities Development Report, AVP Whipstock, tab D.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Not much has changed since the last time we met. The camera project is still going. Most of the underground utilities have been put in. We are starting to pour for the foundations for the towers and phones. Other projects I'd like to highlight would be number 5, the site lighting. The parking lot lights are almost all complete. In fact, when you walk out tonight, the lot right out in front of here was completed last week. We are still waiting for about a dozen lights to show up. We ordered these things back in June, and the delivery for these lights are very slow. Great Lake Steps, we poured the steps last week. We're doing the handrails and the lighting this week. The Great Lake Steps should be done by the end of next week as well. Number 8, the OE substation expansion. We did get the PO out. We confirmed that the substation expansion module won't show up till June of 2025. So anything dealing with electrical and infrastructure right now are very long lead items. Other than that, is there any other questions? Sure.
Isn't there more to this? I see you. Isn't there more? I don't see the rest of your report here. Is there a way to move the tab D down?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you said number 8, and I'm like, where's number 8?
I'm looking on the sheet. No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
Trustee Milshine, you said you had a question?
I hate to say this, but winter's coming. And last year we had a conversation in regards to, or maybe it was even less than a year ago, in regards to plowing, sort of assessing our parking lots to see if we can shut down some of the parking lots and not have to plow and salt, especially the salt for the environment, and just potentially wasting money on the plowing. Has there been any further discussion about closing off any parking lots in the winter season just so that we don't have to, if they're not being utilized?
Yes, we do that. We have been doing that. Holly, our grounds manager, has a layout or a plan of priority plowing, and then as we get to it, type of plowing, like Lot 2, which is out in the corner. We don't plow that right away, and so once we catch up and keep the priority lots plowed, then we go back and plow those lots as well. Top of the parking structure, we close that off completely during the winter. That way we don't have to salt it or anything. We try to avoid any type of salt in the parking garage because of, it's very corrosive.
So, for example, Lot 2, if you're waiting until you catch up, is there a reason why? Is it utilized during? Is there a reason? Could we just shut down some of the parking lots that are not being utilized?
Yeah, I mean, we try to keep the aisleways clear in case we have to. Like Lot 2, sometimes the automotive group will take a couple cars out there, park them, then bring them back in. But like I said, we only go out there once we've caught up with everything, and we really don't salt Lot 2, but we do keep the aisleways clear.
I think it might be a good idea just to assess that as we're heading into the winter season, for me, it's more of an environmental thing of salting, why salt parking lots that aren't potentially being used? And maybe they're all being used and that's great. But something to assess as we get into the winter season.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's no point. I mean, where I work. So this is our building. I can park here in the wintertime, here, close to the building itself. But all the exterior, the outlying parking spaces are cut off. So there's no point in having these cleared out when there's only so many spaces available that that will accommodate the given number of employees, especially during the wintertime. We have a lot of parking spaces here, lots here, that are not full. I mean, really, they're not full to its capacity, so there is absolutely no reason to have those open. Now, I know there's a section, forgive me, I always forget the lot numbers, but I know where the semi-truck training,
Lot 7.
7. I was going to say 6. Thank you. Maybe that is still available to have open in the winter. If not, shut it down. There's no point in spending money for the outlying lots or just a portion of those lots if they're not going to be utilized. And I agree with Trustee Milshine on that argument.
We'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
Get back with
Matt, no worries. I appreciate that. I have one more, if you don't mind, just one more. Was it about the parking lot? Okay, go ahead. Because it's a different question. I didn't want to jump around. Go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of in opposition, maybe because I don't know any better. But I think there's a safety hazard if say like there's a lot of snow and someone comes up. No, you don't know what people do public, but maybe they move the barrier or they do whatever and then they get injured. I'm just saying people who may want to do something like that. I'm just looking on a different spectrum.
And that's so correct. I said that's correct.
So that would be a liability. So I'm looking at liability here of parking lots being shut down. Maybe there's another way to clear it other than the salting mechanism. There are, what do you call those shovels on the truck?
Plows.
Yep. Do the plow thing, without salting or sand. And sand is terrible, but salt is terrible and sand is terrible. So, but I'm just throwing these things out to think about, not just shut it down because that's just too harsh, considering this institution and amount of people that come here.
President Belanca would like to.
Yes, I appreciate the board's sentiment, and we'll take it back and talk to Craig. And in our board memo, we can tell you what we're thinking. Does that work? Because that way we can look at the safety precautions and who knows what kind of winter it is, right?
Right.
Yes, you're in charge, not me.
Trustee DeVardi.
I'm just sitting here thinking, if we have parking lots that are not used, maybe we should do a survey with the students and see if they'd like to have an ice skating rink on campus. And maybe we turn one of the parking lots into a winter ice skating rink. I grew up going to city park ice skating rinks, and the city Parks and Rec department doesn't do ice skating rinks anymore. They just have the indoor rinks. They have Burr Park and Veterans Park. But hey, this is maybe something we could provide to our students and to the broader community, including people that use the Health and Fitness Center. And that's just an out there crazy idea. If we have an unused parking lot, it might be a fun thing to experiment with. If students would be interested in it, it might be a fun thing to do.
Interesting.
I'm sure it's fun. I bet it is.
I'll teach you how to ice skate.
Ice skate. Still looking at liability if that does that.
But thank you.
I do have one other question. If there's no other questions from the board, okay. My next one is, now I'm looking, where is it? Number 3, the Great Lakes Technical Center, the stairs replacement, waiting on a start date. How is it that we're waiting on a start date?
Yeah, and actually that was a mistake. I caught it just tonight as it was coming. If you look at number 3 and number 7, they're the same one that should have been deleted off of here. I'm very sorry.
Okay, so those are completed projects.
Yeah, I'm very sorry.
All right, great.
So the GL steps should be completed next week. We're actually putting in the electrical and everything.
Thank you. There's nothing else from the board. Thank you very much.
All right.
It was very, very enlightening. Thank you. Now move.
I just would like
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
comment on Craig. Craig, thank you. Craig has stepped in, as you know, our vice president. He's stepped in as a vice president for facilities, maintenance, and grounds, and also doing his former job, and also dealing with a skeleton crew because of personal matters, and not personnel, personal, but our kind of personnel eventually. But I just want to thank him because he is working 24 hours almost. I think he just gets home, sees his child, maybe eats, and comes back. So, Craig, thank you so very much. And he keeps me really informed, which I really appreciate. He goes by, I can tell you about those stairs. I know. So I really appreciate everything that he does. And I'd like the board to know the work that he's been doing.
Excellent. Now we're moving on to remarks of the members of the board. If anyone likes to present their remarks. Ladies first.
Ladies first, okay. Thank you, President Blanca, for supporting us to go to the ACCT conference last week. I got a couple of presents for you here. I stuck mostly to the AI technology related sessions, and this conference was different in that different from ACCT conferences in the past, in that they had an AI lab that you could go into and experience all the different products. And then, of course, I also went into some sessions. Here's a paper I'm going to give you from a session that is called the AI Primer for Community College Leaders. And this is a really cool map because it shows you what state education is doing something about an AI policy and who isn't. So this is regarding policy initiatives, and 2 points on that. One, the ACCT Connect website has, as you probably know, like over 1,000 policy examples of varying policies. They got one on AI now in there to check out. And the recommendation is we really should be thinking about an AI policy. The other place to find an AI policy is with the EU. They published something about 3 months ago with AI policy. So those would be 2 great places to look for an example. And one reason that an AI policy is going to become really important to us is because whether we like it or not, a lot of the machines that we're going to be buying for allied health and advanced manufacturing will have AI embedded in these systems. So we better have a policy and be thinking about this now, right? So that was the policy session. Another session I went to, this was really cool because this is a study that was sponsored by C-Engage, and we use C-Engage here for some of our online learning. And this is full of statistics where they surveyed college presidents, administrators, trustees, and faculty about their sentiments and about AI. And they give you 2 years of data, and it shows you, just kind of how sentiments have improved with AI and what kind of applications that they're thinking about. So this was a really interesting study to look at.
Thank you.
Let's see what else regarding that. Just an example, a lot of the people in the room were actually getting more excited about AI versus like a year ago. Just a year ago, people were like, oh my God, what are we going to do with this tool? It's going to, disrupt education. Students are going to write papers with it, this and that and this and that. But they gave several examples of how students are using AI, and it's really remarkable how they have come up with it. One example is there was a calculus student who was having a really hard time with a concept. And she went to AI not to solve the problem for her, because that's not really what AI is for, but she just asked AI, I don't understand this concept. So AI explained it, and she still didn't understand it. So she said to the AI, I still don't understand it. So AI rewrote the response to her in a different way. She asked it again and again and again until she got it. And that's a really remarkable way that this is going to revolutionize student learning. So we really should have a policy on it, because that's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing. And I could probably go on and on, but I don't want to take more
No,
time.
I love it. I love it.
This last thing I want to give you, this last gift, is not AI related, but it's a booklet of trustees, faculty, and administrators who were recognized for excellence. And so I thought you might be interested in that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for letting us go. I learned a lot.
Thank you for going and for bringing this back.
And there's your
Thank
goodies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Milligan, you had your hand up.
And Dave Rutledge is a lifetime ACCT member, and he was present
Yes.
for the conference. I marched out there. About 2,000 people attended this community college trustee conference, and a lot of chancellors and presidents. So it was a mix of all level of community college leadership. And I was feeling pretty proud coming from Washtenaw Community College with 21,000 students and all the good work that we did. And then I sat in on a session that Maricopa Community College
Yes, that's the truth.
Maricopa Community College, think Phoenix, Arizona, metropolitan, 80,000 students, 6 campuses, and that was a whole different scope of thinking than I was ready for. But I was impressed with the work that they did. They have a public affairs effort. One of their trustees owns a advertising marketing firm in Phoenix, and she provides a lot of the outreach for the college with all the pillars of the community. It was a very impressive narrative that they...
At Maricopa?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. A trustee?
Yes.
Okay.
I can give you her name. And the other one was Wake Tech in North Carolina, and that was 60,000 students and a whole bunch of campuses. And so there were all levels. I mean, there were some of our Michigan schools were there with 1,900 students, and we stood above them. But it was humbling to see the scope of the thinking and the interest that was there. One of the exhibitors was, of all people, Ellucian.
Oh, yeah.
And Ellucian was present. And the thing that I thought was fascinating was they were beta testing a new application of theirs called Journey. And I don't know if any of us have heard that name yet. Journey, they expect to introduce to the market in the first quarter of next year. I suspect that Washtenaw Community College will have a chance to look at this too. But it's AI driven, and the interesting thing about it is that it gathers curriculum and student and workforce data and gathers them all together, and it allows me as a student, if I'm matriculating and I'm having second thoughts, I can look at different academic disciplines and click on one, and it will tell me how many of the requisite courses I already have and what the other ones are that I need if I want to accomplish that academic goal. So Journey,
look at that.
Journey sounds like it's got some tremendous potential. I knew Alex would like it, and so I was impressed with it. And the final episode that I saw was in the general session on Saturday, when a community college graduate named Melissa Littleton spoke to us. And she had 10 or 15 photos up on big screens behind her. She spoke extemporaneously for a half an hour. She went to Washington State University and flunked out. She got married. She had 3 children. And at some point later on down the line, her husband convinced her that she ought to go back to school. She went to Tacoma Community College and graduated. And she is a real motivated thinker, mover, shaker, community activist. She now works for Governor Jay Inslee. Governor Inslee's been in office for 12 years. And she had 3 children, something like 4, 6, and 8, took them to work with her. And she said, the trick is just show up. Don't ask if you can bring your children. And she uses her work as training for her children and how to grow up and set goals and be objective. And she was a real breath taker. It was kind of Erin Brockovich reincarnate right there in front of us. So there was a lot of value there. Thank you.
Thank you.
I attended some others, but this one particular that stuck out to me was given by Michael Gavin, the president of Delta College, and it had to do with the DEI and academic freedom that's under attack. And there was no handouts or anything. So, but I did ask about getting some information sent to me. So some information will be sent probably to you, Vanessa. But it was so interesting of how at one time DEI at Delta was difficult to maneuver to get through what they were experiencing, all kinds, everything from racial, gender, everything. So bathrooms, But what he did, what the president did, Gavin, he incorporated some faculty members. He incorporated some outside people to help him design a way or figure out a plan to get DEI to work in their school so that everybody was equal. I'm telling you, it was so fascinating. The room was filled with people. There was not a seat to be taken, and people standing around the wall. So that show you how much they were so interested. And I think it went about 45 minutes, but it was really good. There was another one. I just walked in and out. I'm going to tell you how it was there because there were so many programs that's going on at the same time, actually on the same time. So it was hard to be there. But one of the things that I sat in, which I have handouts for the board members, is they talk about the federal programs was coming down the pike, and which beginning in January. It's kind of sad because there's so much that's happening on the federal level that we don't know unless we get to these conferences like this ACCT, where you can find out, because they have actual people that's there with the senators and know what's going on and with the bills. If you just hold on for a second, I want to show you, listen to you, give to you. There is going to be support for the Pell Grants for students in short term, and that's the biggest thing that was been fighting for years, short-term programs. So we're going to have that. And they talking about the WIA, strengthening the workforce innovation and opportunity, student success and access. That's another big one that they're working on right now. And bolstering the job training and career and tech ed. So I have these sheets, handouts that I was able to pick up so that everyone would have it. This is another thing. There are the QR codes on this sheet of paper of different action items that you could be able to look at. Just pull it up on a QR code. And I have another one about the community college federal funding priorities. And there was, there are so many, I can't get them all. But, talking about student homelessness. And that was really, that was very interesting too. So I'm going to pass these out. I'm going to give Dave one right now. But did you get one? Okay, I'll get you one. Thank you.
Yes, Trustee McKnight Morton said a good chunk about the focus, the federal focus, which is what it's called, an update on congressional administrative action. That was the session name, and it was very, very interesting from the point of view of not politically, but just to understand whoever occupies the White House determines the outcome for the Department of Education. And so I was able just to write a couple of things down, like she stated, like the Department of Education is enforcing stricter financial responsibility regulations and reviewing overtime rules. Financial aid eligibility is now tied to specific gainful employment metrics. Bipartisan opposition to Title IX regulations creates varied enforcement dependent on geographical areas. differences between Trump and Biden administrative rules, and it just goes on and on and on. And we're in a serious time here now, and actually this information is right on time leading up to the National Legislative Summit, when we'll go there in February, so that we can address our representatives to find out where we are, what's going to happen. Of course, that's not going to be to February, and that will be after January, so we don't know who's going to take seat and the outcome of this. I did provide, I downloaded the slides. There were like 50 some slides, but I can send them off to the board members if you like to see them. But I did provide it to Vanessa for you to look at. This is very serious, along with the DEI that Trustee McKnight Morton also described. Don't get too comfortable. Somebody may come and say, hey, you need to change your name, the labeling of something, when it was used to be, labeled gender for all or something, but they want to change the label, so because this was brought up in Dr. Gavin brought that up in his presentation, that we can't rest on our laurels. Everything is changing so quickly, and we have to stay in the forefront. We have to be policy ready in case we do have to change policy based on whatever comes to us from outside this campus. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's so much going on right now at the state level, at the federal level. Very, very interesting times. It takes a lot of openness, willingness to learn something new, and to open up our mind. And this is like an unbelievable time.
Yeah.
It really is. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
But we have we're a college, right? Right?
Yeah, we're a college.
Right? I know. I said that today at our meeting. We work for this county, right?
Yeah,
I know.
It is a SOA, because that's just
I know
what happened with universities. I'm drawing a blank. Forgive me. That had to testify for or speak before Congress.
Oh.
And a couple of them had female presidents and resigned, because of the pressures. So, that's something that we always have to now be cognizant of, because anything can change. Mm-hmm. And with that, we just have to be ready.
It's very good advice.
Yeah.
This is a sheet. There was only one of these, and this is for policy and practice QR codes. I asked Vanessa if she thought that she could reprint this to pass out, because I think this is really important too. Anything with policy and practices, I think we need to all have that. And this is another one I'm going to have her to do, and this is about the SNAP program, because I know a lot of our students are getting SNAP. So this is another thing. And they're saying like 24% of college students have advanced food insecurity in the last 30 days. So this is really so important. Even what Dr. Colbert was talking about, food insecurity. So I think this is something we need to look at.
I really appreciate the feedback. That you're bringing back information. Thank you. Can you copy a QR code and it works?
Yes.
You can.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good. Trustee Hatcher.
I think in light of what you've just been talking about, it's important that we as an institution prepare to support our staff who may very well be attacked for something.
Correct.
I know of one faculty member who was attacked and was not supported and has since left. And that shouldn't happen. We should support each other and have a mechanism for doing that, so that essentially we have each other's back, because we don't know where it's going to come from. But we should have some sort of, structure that supports any individual that works here who might get attacked for some very strange reason. So I would just recommend that we think about that, at least, how we can do that.
Agree. I agree with you on that one. I think another thing too, I really like the organizations, but especially MCCA and especially ACCT, the national one, is because they're right on top of all the policies. And if you want to find out, all you have to do is call them. You can, email them. You can, whatever you want to do. But they're there to answer your questions, especially about the policies, because the policies is almost overbearing of what's happening in Washington. And we have no access to Washington. We don't have any access to our senators, our local senators, but not the policies up there. So if we can just write to our senator and say, hey, I need to know what's going on, or call, email them, whatever needs to be done
with them. We can, or we have a great government relations person sitting right next to you.
Government. Oh, you have a federal lobbyist. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Meet here on campus.
Yeah,
it would be
because
great if you'd
we
like.
really need to have this advocacy
I think
there.
it's important too.
And it's just all of the schools, not just ours, but across the country. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Alrighty. That was healthy and enriching. Thank you.
Well, excuse me. I just want to say this. I just want to throw it out. So I'm the delegate to select different directors at large, and some others, whatever they are called. And so this is no lie. I've been doing this for many, many years. This is the first time we're in a big assembly. All the delegates are there, and there's 3 candidates for director and director at large. 3 candidates. We were in there. It was longer to sit there and wait than to vote on those 3 candidates, because it was unanimous. That's the first time ever. We have never had a quick voting process like that, ever. So it shows you how things change, too.
That's good.
On the president?
Yes, Dr.
Thank
Belanca.
you. Well, there are things not only changing at the federal level, but there's a lot of changes at the state level. A lot of changes that are affecting us as a college. And one in particular is the one we talk about all the time, this developmental education thing.
Yes.
And, we're probably going to have a conversation at some point about the changes that are happening, because they are happening. I've never been one to resist change, and I will not do that now, but change for a good reason. But we have to know what we're doing. And some of the things are very hard to agree with. And I'm not an old dog that can't learn new tricks. This old dog can learn new tricks and wants to learn new tricks, but I gotta like the trick. Okay, so if you know what I mean. So, there's a lot of things that we should discuss about what's happening even at the state level. There are a lot of changes that are affecting every community college in the state of Michigan, every single community college, and at some point, it'd be great to have that discussion.
Yeah. Your piece in the paper was pretty good addressing that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Thank you so much for attending the ACCT. I know that, you have to leave work. You have a lot of commitments to change, so I appreciate your time. And I wish I could have joined you. I'd like to thank Secretary Hatcher and Trustee McKnight Morton for being a part of the Women in the Black Women in Michigan Politics event that we had. Joe Tate was Speaker, Representative Joe Tate, our first Black Speaker of the House, was at that event as well. On November 8th, we will be hosting the Women of Color Collaborative, which is sponsored by Michigan ACE. And this event is designed to create networking opportunities and support women of color who are employed as faculty, staff, and in leadership roles at the college. And we've been involved in that for 12 years, right? Sometime. The guest speaker at this one is Kim Trent, the Deputy Director of Prosperity at the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. If you would like to attend, please let Vanessa know. Women of color. I don't know if men are allowed, but who knows? Okay. You're welcome. I'd also like to congratulate one of our excellent faculty members. We have a lot. But tonight, Digital Media Arts faculty Don Worthman, who Don was honored last week as the recipient of the 2024 Outstanding Faculty Award at the Trends in Education Conference. And I'd also like to thank Dean Eva Samolsky for nominating Don for the award. This award recognizes a faculty member's outstanding contributions and commitments to excellence in education, dedication to improving the educational landscape, and positively impacting students and colleagues. So congratulations, Don. As a number of years, our college has been recognized for our efforts in encouraging students and others to vote. And as you know, we often won awards, and we recently won an award for that work by being recognized by the All in Democracy Challenge, which awarded WCC Best in Class. I'd like to thank Trustee Milstein for helping us launch one recent voting activity by connecting the college to Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson's office. So thank you. We were able to host the Secretary of State mobile office on campus on October 7th. So thank you so much. November 11th will be Veterans Day. Please, you are always welcome to join us. And just a reminder, the Economic Club is Thursday, November 7th. Tim Skubik, who is an anchor for our, who he is for public television, his program Off the Record will be here. So that should be pretty interesting. And now an award for Trustee DeVarty.
DeVarty. Yay. Yes.
Should we stand?
Yes, I think we should. 10 years of service from the Michigan Community College.
Oh, yes. He wasn't here.
It's in there somewhere.
I'll look at it.
Vanessa, it's in there, right? You didn't take it. No, Vanessa.
Okay, I'll look.
I'm seeing my
Thank you.
accurate diamond. Anyway, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being part of that association. Thank you.
You all set?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, thank you. And congratulations again. Okay, so we're going to move on to tab E, action items. Receipt of the fiscal year 24 audit. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the fiscal year 24 audit as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Davis?
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken?
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty?
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight-Morton?
Yes.
Trustee Milstein?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to tab F, the electrical infrastructure upgrade for EV charging at parking lots 1, 6, and 7. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve a contract with A.F. Smith in the amount not to exceed $306,280. Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Davis?
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken?
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty?
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight-Morton? Yes. Trustee Milstein?
Yes.
Okay, tab G, storage and receiving building and maintenance garage renovation. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve a contract with Spence Brothers in an amount not to exceed $1,476,500. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Davis?
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken?
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty?
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton?
Yes.
Trustee Milstein?
Yes.
Okay, tab H, approval of the 2024-25 faculty sabbaticals. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the 2024-2025 faculty sabbatical leaves as submitted. Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
Support. Any discussion? Trustee McKnight Morton?
I have a question under Alan Coleman. He's going to be doing looking at FAME programs and research, but he said he's going to be conducting site visits to identify and document best practices in skilled trades education. It doesn't identify what sites, or does he know that?
So you might remember that the FAME program, we're the first college in Michigan to have that program. It's the Federation for Advanced Manufacturing Education. And given the fact that we're the first, there's been many states that have done this for 30, 40 years. So those site locations are Indiana, Alabama, and I think Illinois at a minimum. He's trying to hit as many as he can over the semester.
And these are community colleges and technical colleges?
They are, yep.
Okay.
That have very similar programs and have been doing the FAME model for many years.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Hatcher.
I would just like to congratulate Alan Coleman. We don't often get sabbatical recommendations from manufacturing programs, and this is good news that someone in that department has asked for a sabbatical and to do some useful work.
It is the first one since I've been here at the college.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I never remember it being done. I think.
Trustee Milstein?
I'm really excited to see that 2 of the 5 faculty members are going to be concentrating on AI. I think it's every field is being impacted by it, and I'm glad that we have 2 faculty members who are going to be concentrating their sabbaticals on it.
Anyone else? Okay, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Davis?
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken?
Yes.
Treasurer DeVarty?
DeVarty, yes.
Secretary Hatcher?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton?
Yes.
Trustee Milstein?
Yes.
Okay, tab I, review of 2026 through 2030 WCC capital outlay plan. But before we vote on the capital outlay, President Belanca, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yes. In your board packet that we sent you, you had an opportunity to review the proposal for the capital outlay project. And as the board knows, we did present an alternate idea to you before. And after finding out more information, we realized that might not be the best option. And so we took a look at a plan that the board has approved, a concept several years. We've gone forward with it several times before. And we thought, well, let's take another look at that plan. Let's look at it and let's take the input that we received from the legislators, all the times that they turned us down. Let's take a look at that and let's look at our current needs and let's revisit that plan. So I thank the board for your patience and your understanding and your willingness to take a look at another option. So thank you. And Provost Blakey will share the plan with you. And this is, just so you know, this is only the concept. So should you approve this today, which I hope you will, should you approve it today, it doesn't mean we have to do this. It just means you agree with the idea. And she'll go through the process where there's a point where everyone gets to give input. This is the concept we're talking about. Okay.
Thank you, board members. I think it's helpful to talk about first, like, what is capital outlay? We throw those words out, and so just give us some background on what is capital outlay. So it is the budgetary and administrative functions devoted to planning and financing the acquisition, construction, renovation, and maintenance of facilities used by state agencies, public universities, and community colleges. So with that backdrop, every year, colleges have to submit a capital outlay report. Institutions may or may not submit a capital outlay request with the report, but regardless of whether we have a request, this report has to be submitted every year. So this gives it a sense of what a capital outlay kind of a request, how many steps are involved in the request process. There's the concept phase, which we're going to talk about tonight. That is then submitted, and then it has to be approved. It gets a priority project. It has to be approved by the state. If we get that priority project, then we would have a year to do planning. Then the project would get a finalization, and then we would have to come back to say, board, is this a project that we want to move forward with? But you can see there's many, many steps before we would actually be able to move forward with the project that we are proposing. So again, what we're talking tonight is the concept phase. So we'd like to get your approval to not only approve the report that has to be submitted by November 1st, but the request that we are adding to the report. So for our 2024 submission, we are wanting to renovate and transform the Student Center building into a new, innovative, and more accessible center for success and innovation. The first floor of the Student Center we would want to create an innovation station where it would be for active learning space for students and community to experience emerging and innovative technologies, including the exploration of diverse career paths using VR and augmented reality and AI. The space would also be event space for community and K-12 recruitment events. We also want to create a retail management partnership space. So for our retail management program in partnership with local providers, again, an instructional lab space. As Dr. Polanica mentioned, we looked at where our prior requests have lost points, and we really tried to focus on some more instructional spaces in this building. So again, to gain extra points for our proposal. We also would be expanding our esports arena, and our esports programming has been very successful. We've gone from 2 teams to 8 teams. Our arena is always filled. And so, but through our arena, we talk about all the academic programs that are connected to the arena, which includes game and software development, animation, our event program management, marketing, operations and logistics, and we've recently expanded our esports management certificate program that can be embedded into our business management program as well. So again, we would want to relocate our esports arena, but we would put interdisciplinary instructional space in that area as well. On the second floor, we've talked about our increasing need for resources for our students, especially in the mental health arena. We'd want to create a comprehensive wellness center. We would combine our licensed professional counselors that we have on staff with our student resource center staff, our case managers, and also our success coaches. So in one area, we would be addressing students' needs for housing, transportation, childcare, food resources. We would relocate the food cupboard there as well, wraparound resources, and we'd also have a partnership with Trinity Health and have a health center inside of that space. We also will be creating a Pathways Partnership Center, so we would support a student's journey directly into employment or transfer to a university. So this would house our University Transfer Center with our primary transfer partners, such as you have University of Michigan and Eastern Michigan University. But we would also house the Satellite Michigan Works office to facilitate employment and training facilities for our students and the community. We also would be relocating and expanding our Center for Career Success. That's currently located on the first floor. We would be locating that to the second floor, where it would be closely aligned with our Pathways Partnership Center, and that, again, would centralize the services that would align student, employer, workforce development, and community needs. And again, as we've talked about, expanding our apprenticeship, internship, and co-op opportunities for our students that lead to employment, those would all be, again, attainable on the second floor. We also we are certainly having more and expanded use of the Wadhams Veteran Center, so we would want to expand that space to better serve our veteran and active service members and our veteran family members with more support and study space. On the third floor, we would be consolidating administrative support offices. So as part of the HVAC project, which we've talked about, the HVAC needs to be redone in this building, but we will be moving the testing center to the third floor, from the third floor of Student Center to the second floor of GM, where the Learning Commons area is. The movement of the testing center will allow for relocation of financial services, consolidation of purchasing and budget on the third floor, and we would also be relocating human resources from the BE building to the third floor of SC. We would also be taking second floor administrative offices that do not have direct student contact and relocating those to the third floor as well. The estimated cost, the proposed request would have an estimated project cost of $19 million. Again, we expect projects that are less than $20 million get extra points when the projects are being evaluated. So we really were conscientious in making sure our project was less than the $20 million. And so with capital outlay request, if we are approved for this project, for community colleges, they fund 50% of the project. For universities, they fund 75%, but for community colleges, they would be funding 50%. So that would be $9.5 million from the state of Michigan would be requested. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. I note that 80,000 feet of the student center will be renovated, consists primarily of administrative offices. Where are those offices going, or is this recognition that the virtual workplace has dramatically diminished our requirement for office square footage? How are we looking at that?
The 80,000 square feet is all the square footage of the student center building is 80,000 square feet on the three floors.
It says here it houses primarily administrative offices. Do they go somewhere else?
So, well, right now those offices are currently up on the second floor and some of the third floor and some of the second floor, and so we would be consolidating those all to the third floor.
And so it'll be
so we'll be
office
focusing.
Square footage will be reduced in some measure. Is that right?
I'm sorry, ask that question again.
The gross office square footage that we'll have in the building will be reduced in some measure.
Yes, because it will be more student space. The way the way it's being configured. Yes. You're welcome.
Can you talk us through timeline? So this is submitted by November 1st. What's the timeline for the state to review, provide feedback, and how soon will we know their thoughts on our proposal?
That might be a better question for our government relations person sitting at the table.
Okay.
Talking to your mic, please, Ms. Brooks.
It's up to them. So I think we'll know more probably after the election to see how the House and swings and see what they do with the money. But last time it took years. Before it was a couple months. So I was going to say, when President Blanca and I go on a road show, hopefully we can persuade them to push that along. So,
well, and go ahead. We don't even know if she's going to have funding for this project. So we're really approving the concept. And should there be funding, this is what we're proposing that they consider. So we're not even sure that the governor is going to even have a capital outlay funding for this year. We're not sure. But the good news is we have a project in there. And this is something we really want to do. And it's the right thing to do. So who knows? Maybe we can even fundraise. We have an amazing chief philanthropy officer now, and we have a great fundraising board, and
and foundation board.
I'm sorry, I meant foundation board. I mean, who knows? Anything is possible as long as you come up with the concept. We have all the little pieces. We just have to put them in motion. And so any way you look at it, we really can't lose. Like Linda says, what's the worst they can say? No.
Trustee DeVardi, did you have something?
Not a question, but a statement in support. So I was on a trip to southern Utah at our last meeting, so I did not see the original proposal, but I did have, when I met with CFO to go over our finances, our end of quarter finance report, I was able to take a look at some of these thoughts, and I strongly supported the staff's desire to move from what was presented at the meeting I wasn't at to something at the Student Center, which we've been looking at now for more than 2 years, and something we drastically need to do. And with the knowledge and experience of our previous submissions, to be able to make changes in it to potentially address some of the ways to get more favorable ratings and approval from the state in approving it. I strongly suggested that we look at it in terms of functionality, like where the student functions most accessible to students, and administrative functions that aren't necessary for direct interaction with students, move those geographically within the building further away. And I'm really happy to see that they're addressing the functions of the various pieces that they're putting this and where those functions should go. I strongly support that model. I think it's the way to go. And I think that it will receive some positive consideration from the state, just presenting it in that way. So I really, it's something we need to do. It's something we've been looking at. If we could get state buy-in on it, it's great. I think the sooner we can move this ahead and give it to the state, the better.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm all in favor for the concept. So yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You have to vote on the capital outlay.
Yes, I'm
willing to make a motion that the Board of Trustees approve the 5-year capital outlay plan for fiscal years 2026 to 2030 as submitted, along with it this project.
I support that.
So it's a roll call vote. Vanessa, if you could please call the roll.
Chair Davis?
Yes.
Vice Chair Milliken?
Yes.
Treasurer DeVardi?
DeVardi, yes.
Secretary Hatcher?
Yes.
Trustee Fleming?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton?
Yes.
Trustee Milshine?
Yes.
Now I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the monthly meeting. Do I hear a motion? It's already.
Support.
All right. Boy, you guys are on it. No discussion, I guess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.